Right, so before we start the meeting proper, there are a couple of things that I need to do. One of them a pleasant thing, the other one perhaps not quite so pleasant. So first of all, Chris has expressed an interest in joining this committee, at least until we're all up for re-election or whatever. So you're happy to join the committee.
Yes,
If
please.
that's your wish, thank you.
Yeah.
Can we just vote on that though? So all those in favour of Chris joining the committee? Great, thanks. I hope it's been explained to you. This is a hard-working committee that
I've worked that out. Yeah.
meets
You meet every
frequently,
month.
and we do have
His
homework.
homework. Yeah.
And we do have homework. Yeah. Right. Now the next thing I need to say is as a result really of the last planning committee meeting. As we know, planning applications are very emotive subjects, and there are very strong feelings both for and against particular applications. So following the decision that we made last time on the application in the middle of Upper Thong, the one next to the Royal Oak, I'd say that we've had a couple of robust comments from a member of the public. And I did feel that there was perhaps some truth in the things that this person was saying. So I've promised to just make an announcement at the beginning of this meeting, which is what I'm going to do. So there were three things I was going to say. This person had looked back at the video and thought that there were things we were doing that perhaps weren't doing perhaps as we should. And talk this through with Jen, with Clark, and I think she's written to all committee chairs. If she hasn't done, she will be writing to all committee chairs along the same lines. So there's three things I want to say. The first one is about declaration of interest. That it's important if we have a declaration of interest to make it at the beginning of the meeting at the appropriate time if possible, but certainly with planning applications before we begin to discuss them, and then having made a declaration of interest to take no part in the discussion or in the voting. That was point one. Point two was about the kind of language we use and the kind of remarks we might make, and just to be aware that residents have strong feelings about this, and we need to be perhaps a little more careful, and maybe we've slipped into ways of speaking in slightly inappropriate ways. So we need to look at that. And then the third thing is for me really, as chair of this committee, really is to try and make sure that if there is language that's not really acceptable, or views are expressed as not acceptable, that I draw attention to that and ask people to perhaps revise their comments. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Right, as I say, yeah.
Can you say what the particular comments were that were wrong previously, not taken exception to?
I'd rather not really at this
Oh.
point. It was the kind. I think the word used was flippant. That some of the comments we were making in the discussion on that particular application were a bit flippant. Not taking it seriously enough, really. So Jenny's writing to all committee chairs, because I think she's some perception that maybe it's not just in planning that this has become an issue, that perhaps we've slipped elsewhere. Right, okay, let's start the meeting proper. First of all, the open session of planning. So first of all, welcome everybody. Welcome particularly Mr. Pogson down at the bottom, and sole member of the public here. And I'm going to ask the committee if you're happy to suspend standing orders and so that Mr. Pogson can address the meeting later when we come to look at new planning applications, and we can address questions. Okay, thanks. Let's move on to item 82, which is recording of the meeting. The meeting is being recorded. Yes, back of your head. And does anybody wish to make any further recordings of the meeting? Thank you. Right, apologies for absence. We've had apologies from Councillor Paul Dixon and Councillor Pat Colling. Can I ask members to agree to, the reason they've been circulated to us, can I ask committee members to agree to those reasons?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Right, to receive members and officers' personal and disclosable pecuniary interest in items on the agenda. I have to declare an interest in item 97 as a trustee of Home First Forward, and I've decided that it's probably appropriate if I don't actually even chair that item. So Tom is going to chair for that particular item. Has anybody else got any disclosable interests?
Yeah, Inchcliffe Mill, Water Street.
Thank you. Right. Have there been any more written requests for DPR dispensations? No. No. Thank you. Okay. Right. Should any items be discussed in private session? No. Thank you. To confirm the minutes of the previous meeting, right. Can somebody propose propose? All in favour? Yes. Thank you. Right. Completed Kirklees planning applications list. Can we note that list has been updated with the views of the committee? Yeah. Thank you. Right. Okay. So, Mr. Boxland, we now come to new planning applications. There have been a couple of documents already already circulated. Right. Would you like to?
Which application?
The
Number 5.
So I'm going to suggest that we move number 5, which is the Inchcliffe Mill application, to the top of the list. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Are you all right then? It's still not a long way away.
I am an awful long way away.
Yes.
Do you want me to move up a little bit?
Yeah.
Can I?
That'd be good.
I was told to sit down here, but yeah, it's probably easier if I come up there.
Yeah.
So, first thing to say is the general consensus of local residents in Inchcliffe Mill are quite eager actually and welcoming of the development in this particular area. The mill's in a bit of a poor state of repair at the moment, and people are quite looking forward to it, looking better than it does at the moment. So, if you've had the opportunity to have a look at the 184 comments that have been left, I'm sure you probably haven't, because it takes forever. But the first positive thing to say is that people aren't saying I don't want it. They do want it, but there are some things about the application that are concerning. And really, I think we're looking to the council here to help steer the development in a direction which is kind of ticking the boxes, if you will, of the local community's concerns. I've sent you kind of a full list, and I don't know whether you've had time to digest that or not. But for example, if you look at the biodiversity report that has been submitted by the applicant, it shows that there's a net loss as a result of the development. Whereas obviously planning policy and the Owen Valley Neighbourhood Development Plan clearly showing that there are mitigating factors that the developer can put in place to try and obviously achieve a positive gain. And they haven't done it. So there's clear guidance as to what the applicant should do, that they just have ignored, haven't followed, chosen to brush over as one example. And that really is a kind of statement, if you will, that applies to a lot of other areas where there's clear policy, there's clear, this is what you're allowed to do, this is what you're not allowed to do, this is what you need to submit, you know, to progress this application. And it's a case of, I've done a little bit of that, but I haven't gone quite far enough in the opinion of the residents. So, you know, it's a tight area with no pavements, on-street parking, and the access roads that adjoin that, you know, the safe stopping distances don't adhere to the policy, but it's, oh well, never mind. Well, that's a really big problem. It's a rural route. Children walk in it every day to go to the primary school. There's going to be more traffic because of the extra buildings that's created. So nobody's saying we don't want it. What we're saying is, you know, be fair, work within the policy. You know, have you done a highway safety report? No, you haven't. Well, shouldn't you really be doing one to identify what the issues might be and what mitigating solutions can be put in place to then overcome what those issues are that you've identified? Similarly with access routes, you know, Spring Lane is only 2.8 metres wide, which is quite clearly in the applicant's transport addendum. But it's like, oh well, never mind, it's fine. Well, you know, the emergency services and refuse collection need a certain width for their vehicles to access the site. And it's like, oh well, it doesn't really matter, it is what it is. Well, either there's a policy or there isn't a policy. So it's a case of, you know, how do we overcome some of these issues, and what could we go back to the applicant and say, can you have another look at this please? So for example, with the tree report, it was done for the previous application, because this is now the third one by the same architects. It was done for the previous one, and it doesn't take account of the biodiversity report, which is a new one for this application. So one's not addressing the issues that have been addressed, you know, highlighted in the other one. One's saying keep all the trees, the other one's saying chop them all down because it was done before the other one. You see what I mean? So it's frustrating that it feels like Kirklees planning department isn't kind of forcing the agenda within the policy frameworks that are there. So that's kind of what I think the biggest frustration is. We're not saying no, we don't want it. What we're saying is, you know, work with us to create something that's appropriate. You know, units 1 and 2 next to the mill building, which are very large and not in keeping with the surrounding conservation area. You know, we're not saying we don't want units 1 and 2, but you know, you might make them a bit smaller and a bit more architecturally design-wise in keeping with the area.
Can you just draw your remarks to a close? You've only got 3 minutes.
Yeah. So
thanks, Charles.
you know, I've kind of circulated around a full list of things that I think, you know, we could say back to the applicant, you know, thanks very much, but you need to do this, and this to address the concerns of, you know, both the planning requirement and the community.
Thank you. I just want to check with the committee that we had your lengthy submission. We've also had another one from another member of the public, including photographs as well. So we've had a lot. We've received a lot of information, and just perhaps to refresh people's minds there. It seems that the greatest change really is that the number of units has gone down from 24 to 19.
That was the previous one actually, yeah. The first one was 24, second one reduced it to 19. This one's the same number of units, and really all they've done is provided for extra parking for the bottom of Spring Lane residents.
Yeah, and they've lost the smaller 2-bedroom units as well. So
no, that was the previous one.
Yeah, but they've
Well,
so the last time we discussed this, we as you've already said, you know, we were supportive of the idea of the development of the mill.
yeah.
But we raised an awful lot of issues. So okay,
Yeah.
councillors, Andy, do you want to? Is it your part?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, of the points you've touched on there, it's how much has it changed from the last time we looked at it. And when you look at the last time, we said over-intensification, heritage concerns, highways, pedestrian safety, flood risk, what else have we got, ecological, and climate emergency. I mean, clearly they have made some movement. We're now down to 19 houses. And I've lost track of where we were. It was more than that at one point, but
Yeah.
it's back down to 19. That's 15 3-bed and 4 4-bed from what I can see. But no affordable housing within there,
Correct, yeah.
despite the fact that there's an SPD that says it should be. Parking they've made some movement on, because at least now on Water Street they've recognised that this parking for residents there is valid and they're keeping that by the looks of things, whereas before they'd taken that out. And likewise at the other side, at Downhead, they've now identified 4 spaces. I think that probably should be nearer 7, not 4, but nevertheless there's something there. It's really then what they haven't done, isn't it? It's, you know, the design still doesn't look right, as we said before. It's still an unsuitable design on the new properties. For me, in particular, the windows, they just don't fit with that locality. Other observations, there's no S106. Independent consultants, interestingly said, they've deemed the scheme unviable. So they're claiming there's no money in it. And there's still no sustainability statement. So my sort of views would still be very much like we had last time. Better, but need to try a bit more. It's going the right way.
Yeah, no, I echo that. There is a slight improvement, but I think there's still the issue of the larger properties going in the green belt, isn't there? Which is sort of that distinctive.
It's just something just, but yes.
Yeah.
No.
And I think if they, I mean, they shouldn't be going green belt, but if they are, then they certainly need to be more in keeping with those larger homes. So, but I think to be fair, we should welcome the fact that they've reduced the number of properties, although lament the lack of affordable properties, and specifically ask for information about sustainability measures in line with climate emergency, and stress. I think it's probably more helpful for them, rather than for us to just write highways concerns, to actually say we're concerned specifically about the impact on people walking to school, on the road. Yeah. Because that's a kind of a certain time of day, which rather than twice a day, that's a particular concern. So I think we should sort of flag that. And I think there's the whole keeping with conservation area, but from memory, the conservation officers said it was sort of improved from what was there before. I can't remember if this also they had concerns about it. I can't remember, it's quite a long response that they gave, which on balance thought this was better than nothing. I think it's that challenge, isn't it? In the end, the development's got to be viable, but I still got concerns about the narrowness of the routes into it, because I can just foresee that just being an absolute nightmare for vehicles getting in and out.
I mean, on Spring Lane, there's no passing point. If you met something, you'd have to reverse 100 metres. That's just...
Yeah, so I think we should say we can continue to be access challenges for this site, but we welcome the principle of continuing to explore redevelopment in that.
It's fine to being sort of marginal from what they're saying on whether there's any money in it. I think a lot of the things that we could do, not real expense to them, they'll cost them, is it? They could make changes without affecting the liability.
Yeah.
Did you have something to say?
No, I don't think I've got anything more I can add that everyone said.
No.
The only thing I would say is you should mention about the emergency service of vehicles as well, that Mr. Pogson's mentioned as well, along with the highways issues, because obviously that's a problem, isn't it?
So, I mean, mean, last time we welcomed the development, didn't we? So I would guess we more or less, not exactly reiterated what we said last time, but pretty much close to that. So but add some things. So we're supportive of the redevelopment of the mill, really, and well, the whole area, really. Last time we welcomed provision of smaller, more affordable houses, but they seem to have disappeared. The two-bedroom ones have gone in the next.
I think we should,
Raise that as
yeah.
I think raise that as an issue.
Dismay, yes.
Dismay. Yes, indeed. So we're objecting. So are we getting the feeling from the meeting is that we're objecting again. We're welcoming the development principle, but we're objecting again for many of the reasons I said last time, but some additional reasons as well, which is the loss of affordable housing, and perhaps just tighten up the statement on highways made last time, and just to add the school, that it's a school, it's a walk to school route, and also the impossibility of emergency services vehicles getting in.
I think, can I just make a final statement, which in light of Mr Boxon's comments, which are quite right about the fact there are planning policies in place,
Yes,
many of which seem to be being contravened but could be achieved.
Mm.
I think we should probably have a statement at the end that says, in light of the level of community interest and strong views over the development, that we believe there is a desire locally for this site to be redeveloped in a sympathetic manner, which meets the challenges of fitting in with the existing residential area.
Agreed. Has there been any attempt by the developers to reach out to work with?
Absolutely not.
No. Well, maybe we should.
And that's a policy
Yeah.
within the
Yes.
Valley Neighbourhood Development
Yeah.
Plan.
Yes.
It clearly states that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
They've done nothing whatsoever. And if this was the first application, you could think, well, maybe
Yeah.
it's an oversight. But this is now the third
Yeah.
reiteration of this.
Mm.
There's 140 comments from the last one. There's no reason whatsoever why they couldn't have reached out to people, at a session, invited people along, said, this is what we're planning to do, what do you think, what are your concerns, how do we overcome them, what do you think we ought to do, how do you think we ought to change it? And take that feedback on board. They've done nothing, and it's, it really feels like they've riding roughshod over the whole process, which makes a nonsense of why the process is there. It's there for a good reason, not to just, kind of make life difficult.
The first time around, we said Parish Council feels that developers should undertake proactive engagement
Yeah.
with the local community.
So
Yeah.
we need to
Yeah, we should-
we need to reiterate that.
We could do that as well. There's a school up the road, there's a pub across the main road.
Yeah.
We could have like the function room upstairs, do something with that. I don't know the event, I'll do something, but it's rubbish, isn't it? It's really poor.
Right, I think we're clear then what we're going to say. Thank you so much for coming
Thanks very
and
much.
sharing your views.
That's all right.
Should we, do you want to propose
Yes.
we reject the application based on the grounds? We should
Yeah.
probably do that.
Yeah,
So
we should.
do it for
Yes,
us.
let's vote on it then.
So, let's refuse. Yeah.
That we vote that we want to oppose the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
And then this may have a long list of objectives, which will be longer than the one we did last. Thank you.
Thanks for
Yes,
coming.
thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, let's move back to number 1. Which is a discharge.
You want a list?
Yes, please.
I'll give you a list.
Oh, we know about the list. Oh,
Shall I quickly print him off a list?
Yeah.
yes.
Should I have been able to find those this morning?
Do not get it emailed to you, like,
I checked my emails this morning and
Oh, it's a bit
I'll
late
let
to be
something
fair.
in.
Yeah.
There's an
but
awful.
I only emailed Rich on Friday to say
Right.
that I definitely want to come along.
I saw your name on one of the circulation, can't remember what it was for, whether it was Charles's email or the other one. So,
The agenda in the final is normally on the website as well, but obviously you don't get all the papers that you're not going to get to go with the agenda on the website.
No, I was kind of thinking I'd get an email about it, but it's fine that I'm
It's massive not quite so long this time.
Don't print it off.
And I think just the planning just gets circulated around all councils, isn't it?
Yeah.
In case
Yes.
other councils have a view on things.
They've kind of got, no, they were quite keen at first, but it's, the novelty's worn off and rarely get, occasionally, Councillor Julie's Wallace occasionally makes a comment, but people don't rarely do. And we are a bit, we're a bit short because we're a small committee, you know, the work we've got. And
You were on the,
some people are looking after large.
Thanks.
have you got your own Valley Parish Council .gov.uk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're on the circulation, so it's on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
we'll see.
maybe I misunderstood what I've been saying.
Anyway, right.
And let's keep going. We haven't got quite so many to do, might be finished in time. Right, so number one is,
Discharge conditions.
is discharge of conditions. So if it's a discharge of conditions, which is usually very technical, not something we can cope with, what we normally do is we do a standard reply, which is to say that we refer it to the Kirklees officer.
So
So
there's a letter notice, isn't there, from Kirklees saying that they recommend not accepting it anyway.
happy with the standard
Yeah,
reply?
yeah.
Happy with the standard reply? Do we need to vote on that?
Yes.
Thank you. Right. And the next one is private access, a variation of conditions, which I kind of struggled with. I don't know, did you? It's yours, Rachel, isn't it? In Sandford Central one.
I struggled to understand it. I wrote down the new private access, but leave it to Kirklees because I didn't really understand what it was.
Yes, me too. I thought the plans were clear.
Couldn't really tell.
Yeah, shall I make that comment?
Yeah.
Yes, the plans were not clear. Yeah. So we're not able to make a decision. So defer to highways. Right. 3.
Oh, this is me as well, wasn't it?
This is
So,
you,
Kingdom
isn't it?
Hall.
Yeah.
One of those things where I thought, goodness, I thought it's on my road. This time's never really taken in what it looks like. New porch and entrance, little fine today, to be honest. It's all being done fairly sympathetically in line with the building as it currently stands.
I thought the Kirklees Highways were asking for more information on the plans, and there's also a request for a VAT survey from Ecology. But the changes look fine.
I thought-
look fine to me. So support.
Yeah, support it.
But do you want to add a rider providing the concerns of? Well, will be
No,
addressed
it's
anyway.
will be
They'll be
addressed
addressed anyway.
yeah.
Okay, correct. And then there's a list of buildings consent. Number 4 is a list of buildings consent, which
Leave it
is
to Mr. Phil.
leave it list of buildings. Hang on, I've got a list from Pat. Pat's done a list. So yeah, she says, I know we don't give list of building approval. If we did, I support this work to maintain an old building, but I would suggest that we just do our standard reply, defer to the
Yeah.
conservation officer. Yeah, people happy
Yeah.
with that? Thank you. Number 5, we've dealt with. Number 6 is, well, I think Pat thought we'd already approved this, but we haven't, because the previous application was withdrawn. And it seemed to me to be an improvement. We supported it last time, subject to sufficient parking. The building is smaller, so
Yeah.
my suggestion is support.
I think the conservation officer commented that it shouldn't have PVC windows in it, but given the conservation officer's mentioned that, we can, I don't know, we can reinforce that, I suppose. I think support in principle,
Support
but
in principle, but
would not want you PVC window.
There's been 2 neighbour objections on this one. Saying that it's too close to the boundary, which is outside the SPD. There should be a metre and a half, I think.
should we raise that concern then? So we
They're
support.
going about insufficient
Yeah.
parking as well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
Right,
I think the main thing is worth
raising, so,
asking
yeah.
Kirklees to check that.
Yeah.
anyway.
So if we say support, but subject to the
How did you say?
the building not be.
I'm on the right one, aren't I? Greenway.
No,
no,
very
you're
not.
Because
Ah.
I didn't see any.
It's number 6, it's the lodge.
No, I think it's just the BBC window. There weren't any neighbour. I think there wasn't anything.
Right, I think of that.
Yeah.
When we get to that one.
Well, yeah, Pat's comment is, haven't we already approved this? No. If we have, and it's just been recently because of the comment about the PVC windows, I think we should continue to support it with the revised windows,
Yeah.
so
That's
let's do that, shall we?
Yeah, well. Obviously, it's a head page.
Yeah. Anxious, right.
That door.
I'll show it.
Thank you. Right, so we're on to number 7, which is 6 Sycamore Valleys. Did anybody have a look at this?
I just looked at this. I thought it was a bit of a shame to lose the garage, but I also thought it was a bit of a shame they were losing the garden for parking. It looks as if they were just squeezing alleged parking spaces onto a space that presumably is currently garden. But I wasn't vehemently opposed to it, but I just think it's a shame when that happens.
I struggle a little bit with it because there'll be no garage, there'll be no front garden. It's a shame to lose that garden because it's almost like it's an open plan front garden, isn't it? It disappears. It's just a parking place. And they claim to have 3 parking spaces, but when you look at it, it's your age, you've got 3 cars there. I mean, it's a shame that you're losing a 2-bed detached house and it's becoming a 3-bed. You know, there's not really a lot you can do about that. But, I just wonder whether it's over intensification with taking all the available space for cars and extension.
Because it's sort of a bit, the parking spaces are almost, it's almost they've got the ruler out worked out where how you can fit the blocks into the line, because in the end that will be.
If you look at it,
out front.
yeah, if you go on Google and look at it how it really looks, you think 3 cars there.
Well, I think we can express concern at lots of
Yeah.
parking.
Are we going to support it in principle or
I
express
mean, all
concern
the
about the
materials
loss?
match and there's
Yeah.
no issues with it from that
It's-
point of view, I don't think.
It is a large extension, but it kind of stepped back from the house, so it's not
Yeah.
over dominant. So support, will
Support extended in principle, but concerns about loss of parking and front garden.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you. Number 8 is one for Paul and I, and it's listed building consent. Have a replacement windows. There was only a location plan, but I think we just do the standard reply to defer to Kirklees heritage officers.
We could welcome the fact they're putting in double glazing, because they were doing timber windows with double glazing.
Should I say that then?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were a few actually this time, people putting in double glazing.
So not every area allows that, do they?
No.
It's not uniform across the country.
No, it's weird.
It's all different.
Anyway, sorry.
Right, number 9 is another Honley one. And Pat's view is it looks okay, although the neighbours don't think so.
This is it.
This is the one.
This is Greenway, this is 5A Greenway. I thought it's a modern house, isn't it? And it's a bit stuck on the back. I thought it was an incredibly ugly design, but I'm not sure that we can object to that. Anybody else?
I think it's just a boundary thing for me.
A boundary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was there a concern about overlooking?
Consent.
Well, maybe that's because it's right up at the back.
Could you give me the boundary bit again?
The claim is from the neighbour objections that I think it's in the SPD that there should be 1.5 metres to the boundary, and then effectively they'll right up.
Again, they're losing the garage, aren't they? And I wondered whether they didn't, I don't recall them having a plan that showed where the cars go.
They have got a drive, though, haven't they? Quite a,
I mean, Pat raised the parking
I
requirements.
think we should raise that as well.
Should we
Yeah.
support but raise the issue about?
and in fairness, that's what the neighbours also say.
So if you grow the house, you get rid of the garage, then you.
I think very few people use the garage now for the cars anyway. So- So very few people. People with fancy cars do, special cars do.
They're not fancy.
It is, I saw it, but the van room.
Old.
Yeah.
Number 10 is a listed building consent. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I've had a look at this one. It's it's called London Vicarage in it, Bot Lane and Hackworth. And yeah, just refer it to the listed building officer, conservation officer as well, so it's both. So yeah, I'm sure they'll double check it and make sure it's okay.
Okay, that was number 10. Right, number 11, odd. We discussed this at our last meeting, and we opposed it, saying the extension's not subservient. I can't see that anything's changed, so I think we just refer to our previous comment. I don't know how this one slept in. Slept in, yeah. Right. Number 12, New Mill, Tom, have you?
Yeah, I've had a look at this one. It's just some dormer extension at the top of the house. It's not really going to change much or do anything really. It's about quite slight. I thought it was okay, fine.
I thought they had a really funny boundary. They had like.
Oh, was
they
it the one
obviously
that
own
went
the
right
sort
down
of,
like a great panel?
the track, they obviously own the track, and then there's kind of a house, and then there's this long bit.
It's a bit weird around there. It's a bit of a snicky bit. You can kind of get to it from the main road, whereas if you're going towards Sheffield, it's just on the right side. There's a little snippet you can get down to it there, or you can get to it through around the back of across the way the Mill Club is. And there's a few like small houses there, and it's one of them. That's what it's called. It's called Water Road, but I don't really. It's Water Road, but I don't really know if there's much water there as well.
No, I suppose it's close to the stream, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's support, Tom.
Yeah,
Right,
there's no
straight-
subject.
yeah, straightforward support, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Right, number 13 is a interesting one. Right, there's, this is a retrospective application, isn't it? And it's removing parking space, the work's already started. I had trouble trying to match the elevations to the floor plans. I don't know if anybody else had
So
problems.
the plans were full.
The plans were poor.
I couldn't understand what was being done so
Right.
far.
Okay. Pat, because it's a Harley one, Pat said, on the application, they claim existing material artificial stone. The neighbours think the houses are built of real stone. Is it real stone?
So
It would
looks
be,
like-
it looks
yeah.
like, right. Who is right, and this is a deliberate attempt to mislead, can't support without further information. So we've got a few queries, haven't we, about the poor.
I
Poor
thought,
plans, I
yeah,
think.
I thought because
Yeah.
it's retrospective really, because they're getting on with the work, and it's obviously
Yeah.
been a bit of a contrast.
Yes.
You haven't got planning, so no.
Yes. Yeah, the neighbour,
Yeah,
dispute really.
So
Yeah.
I think we should leave it to Kurt Lees, to be honest,
Yes,
because the plans
okay.
aren't clear enough for us.
Yeah.
to review.
I didn't like the roof going from a pitch roof to a flat one as well, didn't it?
No, strange.
Just,
Just-
it is.
Yeah. So we're deferring to, because the plans, poor quality of the plans,
Yeah.
because of poor quality of plans, we defer to Kirby's, yeah, obviously, so, right, thank you. Right, the next one is a schools one, so, interestingly, a neighbour representation which was in support, which is unusual, isn't it? I thought it was fine, but I would just say support subject to no overlooking.
Yeah.
That's right. A lot happening for our fields.
It is, isn't it? And the next one is a listed building consent. Idea,
Yeah, I
Fair.
thought this was really well done. I mean, they sought pre-gap advice and taken note of it. Basically basically they're replacing some dirty looking windows with wood ones, wooden doors, so they're improving it. I know we don't usually sort of comment and leave it up to Kate Lees, but
Well, we can add that.
I would feel like
You can add that.
I think they're doing it really well.
Do you want to support? And
Yeah.
do you want to support that?
Yeah, support.
Yeah. And the next one is a discharge of conditions.
I've had a look at this one. It's where the funeral home, where it was in Epworth, because it's come down now. Yeah, seeing pictures on the Epworth community page. It's very strange going to Epworth and not seeing it there. 'Cause it's been there for forever, as I'm concerned. So it's come down now. So they had permission, I think it was approved before, but now we're trying to get rid of a few things, a few tweaks. I've had a look at it, and I've had a look at the comments on it as well from the conservation officer, and they look to be opposing a few of the changes and a few of the tweaks. It's going a bit back and forth by the sounds of it. So I'd prefer just to leave it to the conservation officer.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Right. Andy, what was that one? Infill extension. Demolition of another garage.
Yeah, lots of the garage, there'd only be 2 parking spaces for what would be a 5-bed house. Don't think you have any problems with the actual, what they're doing, but I do question the parking.
Do you want to support to make a question of parking?
Yeah, question the parking, I think.
This one had a wine cellar, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, should be objected on the basis of lots of
Had
time.
lots of parking. Oh,
Wouldn't into complete loss of parking, but
There should be 3 places.
for a 5-bed,
Yeah,
there's not really
yeah.
one or two anyway.
mm.
And one of them they show like across the front of the house, which means you wouldn't be able to get out if the other car was
Yeah.
there.
Mm.
It's not ideal, is it?
I thought the house looked better with the
Yeah.
proposed changes and improvement to its aesthetics, but do we want to, do
Well, why
we want to, yeah,
Could we not say, whilst we support the principle of enhancement of the house, object on the basis of lots of parking relative to increase in house size?
I wonder if they could do something different with the parking to
maybe.
get a 3rd space or something, make it a bit.
Because Mod Lane's quite tight.
Yeah,
You know,
you
it's
don't
not a
really
wide road, you don't
No,
want
you don't want
parking
wide
regularly on that road, put in there is parking.
Okay, happy with that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, number 18 is Pat again, so, part conversion of the double garage. She's saying we don't know how many bedrooms this property has. As long as they lost the garage, we won't take it below the amount of parking required. She's happy with the application.
I thought it would probably be alright, because
Yeah.
they keep in one garage and
Mm.
there's still
Yeah.
2 spaces on the drive, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it says in the application that the parking arrangements will change, which I see how that could be so, but there's no block or site plan, so it was quite difficult to decide on what.
You only show the ground
So-
floor interior. don't you?
Yes, that's right, so you can't tell what's going where. But are we supporting that with
Provided parking is
providing
sufficient.
parking is sufficient? Number 19 is Skulls again. So it's the erection of a second dormer. There's already one dormer in this house. I didn't think it's a rear dormer. I thought it was fine as a support,
Yeah.
provided it's no overlooking.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that? Thanks. I knew there was one where I'd taken issue with the boundary. It was this number 20. So Tom, what?
Yeah, I've had a look at this one.
Yeah.
So I think it's very close to the boundary then.
Not quite 0.5 metres, it actually says on the plan.
1.5 metres?
Yeah,
I didn't notice that. That's not enough. It should be, this to be at least 1 metre, I think, isn't it?
it is,
So,
yeah.
should we say it's over-intensification, like it's too big, too close to the border?
So we can oppose.
Should we use it?
Oppose?
Yeah.
Oppose? Oppose. Too close to the boundary wall.
Surprised that the architect or whoever's drawn the plans of the aren't aware of these things, or it's a bit strange.
It's really odd, isn't it? Because it looks really close, didn't it? And then I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
blew the thing up and thought, oh, 0.5, that's not enough, is it?
No.
No, it just seems like such an elementary mistake to me.
Or maybe they're just trying to get away with it.
Right, so the next one is a variation of condition, and that's saying too technical for me, refer to officers, and I would agree with her on that. Yeah. Okay, that would be your whole Midlothian garage. Oh, this is interesting. Andy, have you got? I've got some comments if I've
Well,
got to.
Making 2 beds into 3 beds.
Yes.
Oh,
And they've done it twice already. And
Didn't it on the
Yeah.
previous?
I know they're not a bigger footprint, or not substantially bigger,
No.
but they're going to be more expensive, aren't they?
yeah.
I don't suppose. I mean, I don't think there's any. I think we're going to have to support it, are we? But
Well, I guess we don't have to.
we don't have
We
to.
can refuse it.
Shall we oppose?
The problem is we may not have a planning reason to object it,
No.
because it's not like, if they're not
It
making them any bigger, and it's a bit of an open site at the moment, so there's not many. Could we refuse it based on the neighbourhood plan, like we're saying that there shouldn't be so many small 2-bedroom houses, or based on the neighbourhood plan was a better wording than how I just described it.
I haven't seen the first 2 phases, but the first 2 phases, this is the 3rd phase. isn't it?
Yeah.
First 2 they've already done this, so I assume there could be that there are no 2 bedrooms on the whole
Well-
development. I don't know.
No, that the one that's called Adele, whatever. Yeah. She
Which-
showed them.
Well, we could, I think we should object on that basis, don't we? Object
Oh,
is
let's
concerned that
yes,
there's a,
object, yeah.
that the originally intended mix of housing size
Sorry, Rich.
has been,
It's,
appears to
just-
be removed.
yeah,
Mm.
we can just. Lots of affordable, yeah,
Leading to a loss of affordable
affordable
housing.
housing.
I mean, presumably they've still got to deliver a certain proportion of affordable homes.
Well,
There's kind of officially affordable homes, aren't there? And then there's the, that needs the technicality, but then there's, in reality, a 2-bedroom home.
It seems,
which is
yes.
unfortunate.
yeah.
Without going through all the previous phases, it's difficult to know. isn't it?
I think we
Well,
should
let's
express that as our
Let's
concern,
object to
shouldn't
that.
we?
There are lots of affordable homes. It's so turning what was 2 bedroom into 3 bedrooms. I mean, there was a slight extension, wasn't there? A small ground floor, quite a narrow extension and additional.
I must admit, the
dormers.
buildings look a lot better than I thought they might.
Oh yeah, the ones that are already.
You know,
yes.
what's already gone in, actually. I mean, I'm sceptical there's going to be enough space for all the cars. I think it's going to be a big mess on the main road because lots of other cars are lined up and pushed out there. But the buildings
The
look
last one, 23 is the scope.
Fairfield Close.
Fairfield Close, which is Latin one. I would want to oppose this because they're turning it into 4 bedroom. It's going to become a 4 bedroom. It needs 3 parking spaces, which it doesn't have. So, we oppose this on parking.
Yeah.
Wonder why we had so few this time compared to the people don't have.
Economy,
Economic
yeah,
uncertainty.
yeah.
The cost of living going up. It'd be interesting to see if it keeps on like this, if it's a few
Yes.
months, maybe even less next time. But you tend to see, like, I think when it gets to the winter months, it does go a bit quieter.
yeah.
Like the summer months, they're always the busiest ones.
Yeah,
Big surge after
yeah.
COVID as well, because people were stuck inside, so all the things they could do to exert their
Yeah,
lives.
so
And
it
super
did
standard.
be interesting to kind of track the numbers, wouldn't it? But how can
The price of everything's going up as well. If you want to like get materials or build anything, it's. There's some work on my house that I wish I'd done it before. It always has happened.
before the cost of
Yeah, but
building
you-
materials went through the roof.
Yeah,
That's the other thing, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
possibility. It's just
They're also finding it hard to do quotes because if they're going for work that they can't do for 6 months, then they don't know what the price of things is going to be.
And then as well, like you get stuff. I don't think the shortage of as many materials as there was before. I know that because I work for a builders merchants, during COVID they ran out of plaster and there was a shortage of bricks and all things like that. Like last year was amazing for like company I work for. This year, not so good. Not as good.
That's interesting, Tom.
Mm.
Right, item 90, Kirklees Council Planning Office decisions. Okay, we've all had them. Can we note that list?
Noted.
Yeah,
Noted. Mostly it was us saying no and Kirklees saying yes, but there we go. Let's move on to neighbourhood planning and reviewing parish council outcomes. So, one conservation area awareness, to note Dr. Clark's post to the Facebook parish council page, shared to the Homley and the Home Fair community pages, and Dr. Clark's going to add more maps and plans, obviously, over the next
Yeah,
year. Do you
I mean-
want to just report?
Well, I was
on
just going to say that
Yeah.
there was a surprising amount of interest, to be honest. I sort of looked, Facebook enabled me to see how many people have looked at things and what they've done and so on and so forth. So, on a normal, so for example, if I use some other example of things I've posted in the past, so I posted an invite to the land charity AGM. That got, so 160 people looked at it and one person showed interest. So that's
One
basically
person turned up.
as if you like or comment or click on a link. So one out of 160. When I've posted about grants that we've awarded, that tends to get sort of 1,000 people looking at it, and about 100 engagements. So 100 people clicking likes and so on and so forth. These two posts though, so we've got 7,000 views
Wow.
and 1,700 actions. And there weren't many likes or comments. So it's all people clicking on the link. So 1,700. So
Did you
that's a
share
bit.
it on the community group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting, wasn't it?
Why?
I mean,
People are interested in
it's kind of a
conservation.
simple thing. I
Obviously.
want to say big thanks to Rich really for doing. I think it's been absolutely excellent. Yeah.
No,
We
surprising.
They have good posts as well, actually. They're interesting. And I think people are tending to get quite more interested in the local history and things like that. So they might be looking at that and then looking at the conservation areas. And people must be looking at the buildings more around the bounce and taking more of an interest in the local area, which is good.
Yeah.
So I do think this is a really positive, really positive thing.
And I think as the feedback, one of the comments was saying, it's great that we have conservation areas, but they're a real mess. And they are. I mean, I don't know whether historic England. Did I write down what historic England's current? It's not good. Yeah, but it's getting worse, isn't it? And it's in a real terrible condition, and it's worsening.
Well, it's good that people are actually engaging, because to be fair, in the neighbourhood development plan, all the consultation, built heritage was a really important thing for people.
But
So,
it's getting worse, it's at risk. If anything we see the Bamford buildings finally getting renovated and getting done out. Text back in use and that's getting done out and improved. I can understand maybe that people might think like looking at some of the shop fronts and think some of it's at risk because some of them might stick out a bit but it's a town centre as well. I would say that it's.
I don't think it's worse than what it was before.
I definitely don't think so, but they know more about that kind of thing than I do, so we should listen to what they're saying. I can understand, like, when you see stuff like the lodges building that got built and things like that, but that's the kind of things that stick out in the open purpose, isn't it? But,
Certainly, yeah.
I think there's been a lot of ignorance around
Mm.
this country, isn't it? There's people have done changes and not realised that they've been a conservation area.
Well, we've had them come here, haven't we?
Yeah.
The sheds and I think it's really a specific list of things, do's and don'ts really. It's really useful.
I know when I talk to people who ask me and I've said, look, if you've any doubts, ask
That's
people.
good. I think that's been really good. So we were asked to consider any further action. You've got plans, haven't you, to carry on?
Well, yeah, well, I'm just gonna, well, I want to do much more than just post the each map basically to
Yeah.
whatever, there's still like Hepworth's got a community
Yeah.
group,
Share
so just to share them to their, you know, village community groups, and home, for example, although they've got an appraisal as well. So yeah, I'll be doing that next few weeks.
I think it's a good thing we've done, and it was something that was brought up by a member of the public and we've acted on it, so it's quite good when we've done it. It's good as an interest. We'll see what comes of it.
I just hope my neighbours talk to me.
So are we considering any further action, or we just at the moment
We just monitor
just
the-
monitor?
Yeah.
It's very interesting, I think, yeah. I mean that might be something worth publicising, won't it?
But you're rolling this out area by area.
Well, I've obviously done Home Firth and Honley to start with. I've done Home Bridge, and then I'll do
Yes.
like one a
So
week.
there's
really.
progress, yeah.
Yeah.
Rolling programme. So thanks to Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Lord's Mill. No, a new team leader was due to be appointed. Presumably has been appointed by now. Do we want to take any further action at this point, or?
Is it useful to make
I
contact
think it
with
might be useful to make
contact,
contact now that this person is in post.
Well, I'll make contact with Sebastian Pickles and ask him if the team leader started and take it from there.
Thank you. Right, neighbourhood development plan, parish council actions. I asked, a message went round all councils asking if anybody got any actions to put against the, but you perhaps
I've got some more.
you've got some more.
Yeah.
Great. I was going to say I haven't had any response, so.
I'll just tell you the numbers that we get to. Number 6, where it's supporting community purchase and developments, heritage asset constructing unsafe use, community ownership. I think you should reference the tech in that as well. I know the tech's referred to later, but it's a similar principle. I'm sure there's something that we put we applied for some sort of community asset protection thing, which meant that it would be a year before something could be sold.
There was one for the Toss of Clyde in Scarborough Mill, but that was a plan application that came in, wasn't it? I think it came under planning. Did it come under planning?
I wonder if it didn't come under planning.
It came under planning, but it wasn't like an application, was it? It was something that was on the agenda. But we did like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we approved it on.
It didn't come to the committee. I just circulated it. I just emailed everybody.
Yeah.
Does the library come under that?
Yeah, on the library.
Yeah, community purchase plan would. Yeah. Only that. I mean, it's sort of. I think it can just refer. You can refer to. 6 and 8.
6, yeah.
Sort of beneath the same content. Then for number 7, where we talk about support and provision of workshops and or advice to owners of heritage assets, possibly through community groups. I think we can reference the stuff we were just talking about actually, in terms of beginning that process. I mean, that's different to organising any workshops or anything, but it's starting that conversation, isn't it? So I think we should refer to that. Then a bit lower down, I didn't quite understand when the table goes blue, there's then a bit about the accessibility audit by Square Peg and ongoing work to improve the public.
Why
I
not?
don't know why the format is it or something.
No, I think I mentioned this last time. It's because I couldn't actually, I mean, they seem important in the context of what the neighbourhood development plan's doing, but I couldn't actually attach them. I couldn't find a home. If you want to suggest a home, that's fine. So that's why I made a couple of extra, lines.
10A and 10B.
Well, I think you could put the accessibility audit, I think you could put in number 14, because
Okay.
that talks about people, accessibility basically. I know the wording doesn't say accessibility, but it does talk about keeping routes clear for people who may have mobility and visual issues. I think you can
Yes.
reference that. Yeah, I think that'd be a good place to put it.
Okay, they just need a home, that's all.
And then improving the public realm, I'm sure we can find something like that. That's not that must fit somewhere. Well, that could fit in placemaking initiatives, or increase the appreciation and understanding of our environment, from 20. Or it could fit in
19.
19 or 50, appreciation of natural environment, local understanding and appreciation of natural environment. There's lots of places it could go. It's
Okay,
imagination, Mary. But I think certainly it could fit in, I think it could fit in sustainability, but it could probably fit in somewhere else.
Okay, fine, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't
No, that's fine. No, they've been floating up there for the last, the last couple of editions, so they just do need help, sorry.
Then I
yeah,
also
go on.
thought, number 16, support placemaking initiatives. I thought we should mention the map that Homeworth Forward have done, because that was fun. That
yes.
was quite a good thing. Then number 21, which talks about healthcare. I thought, whilst we're not producing, we're not in a position to actually promote the health and care facilities, but we do fund patient transport, don't we?
Well done.
So
Yeah.
I feel that that's a
Excellent, yes.
thing. I was just desperately seeking things to fill some of these gaps.
Yeah, I went back through the minutes of all the committees, which is
Oh,
where
wow.
I got the stuff, but it is embarrassing that there are still gaps, so.
Well, no, it's not really, because some of them are big things to try, and they're not things for us to do on our own.
No,
They're
true.
things to sort of aspire to do with next, however long. Then I also thought 45, develop pathways for safer cycling and walking, blah, blah, blah. That's an opportunity to also talk about the River Home Park, because we gave money towards the
Yes.
labels, which I was observing the other day actually. I thought, oh, nice, because they've got the little, it wasn't the Kingfisher the one, it was the other one, the dipper, the brown dipper.
Yeah.
They're quite nice, I think that's
There's a few of them around here as well.
what, the dippers all the time.
Dippers. My missus always sees it like, I remember wishing birds, but she always spots them. They're the ones in the water, aren't they?
I think so from
Yeah.
the name.
And I also thought that the 48, I just thought you could expand a bit, rather than where it says delivery of the Save the Bees presentation. I thought we should say, actively say school assemblies given to all
Yeah.
schools, and bee-bombs given to all primary children.
Do that?
I just think expanding that, because otherwise that's just a list of stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
That was my lot.
Thank you, Rachel. Any more for any more of these? No. I think I said several times probably, I think it's quite an interesting thing to do really, is to see that there is progress. So the issue now is what we're going to do with it. It's going to be, I'll make those additions, and then it will go to the the 12th of December meeting of full council. Do we want to do any further than that?
I think
some
what's-
publicity.
Yeah, I was just going to say what's important, I suppose, is that there's two things to bear in mind, because I think we're going to issue it on the basis of its marking a year since the neighbourhood development plan was
Yeah.
adopted, which is great. But there's the policies within the neighbourhood development plan, and I think we need to have a little bit of text about what that's, what we've potentially pushed as a committee. And then, because the actions aren't, they're sort of all the stuff that everyone raised with us during the process of the neighbourhood development plan, but weren't technically planning policy, and therefore it was a bit like a repository of everything useful that guided a lot of what the community wanted to see, but didn't fit neatly into the policies. So I think we just need to be careful that that action list doesn't then become what people perceive of as that's the neighbourhood development plan.
Yes, because it's a
not.
little idiosyncratic in places, isn't
Well,
it?
it
really?
is.
Well, because of its genesis, it's going to.
I think it's really valuable,
Yeah.
and I think it's really useful having this kind of, the things that over the last year have progressed, because I think actually that there's an awful lot that's, moving forward, which is great. But I think it's important to see in the context of, during the neighbourhood development plan process, a large number of issues were raised by the community and in the development of the neighbourhood development plan. We collated all those potential actions, which were all to be achieved with other bodies, so they're all to be done in partnership and not just with parish council. And as a planning committee with oversight over the neighbourhood development plan, the decision was to review where we got to, and then we can share that, I'm sure, views on. But I just think it's important we make sure that people don't think the neighbourhood development plan is actually.
It's that list. It's just that list.
Yeah.
Presumably at some point we'll need to review it again. won't we? This isn't just a tick the box, go through it away.
No.
Well, it's sort of an ongoing
Yeah.
thing.
So I guess through future planning, we'll have to revisit this, won't we? So where are we on all these items now?
Yes, for me, yeah. It's progress. Do you think? I think the first anniversary of the neighbourhood development plan is actually really quite significant.
Yeah, it's
Significant. Do you think we should be our title that we ought to perhaps feature
Yeah, I
in
think so.
there?
Well, I don't think we should.
Not
put that-
this.
no,
Not
but
putting this in.
yeah.
But some text along the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, it's worth saying that the Kirklees have approached us to say that as it's
Oh, of course,
approaching
yeah.
the year since the plan was adopted, they said quite a funny email. It said, it said each year the local planning authority must produce an authority monitoring report, which is published in December, and so they therefore said we need to look at whether there's any monitoring information that can be put in the authority monitoring report for the period. So basically, because it's the first neighbourhood development plan for Kirklees, they're like, oh no, we've got to put something in the neighbourhood development plan, we've got a new one to include, which is fine. So they very kindly pointed out that paragraph 4.10.5 states the parish council will put procedures in place to monitor the effectiveness of the neighbourhood development plan through planning application decisions and use of conditions and appeals, which is lovely, and I remember the great debate about when wanted us to put that in. As far as I'm concerned, they're the planning decision makers, and therefore really the monitoring is really done through them because they have the
They
information.
have all the data.
But what they've said as well, so I appreciate the period was from the 8th of December 2021 to the 31st of March 2022, so it's only really, they were only really interested in those first couple of months, because it's financial year, I guess. It's early days in terms of the use of the neighbourhood development plan. Has the parish council any monitoring information that we can publish in the report? And my inclination was, and this is what I'd said to Mary just to start the conversation with, was that we said something along the lines of the planning committee noted in the gradual inclusion of references to policies of the neighbourhood development plan sort of appeared from early in 2022, and it was apparent that awareness was increasing, and alongside planning applicants, members of the public attending our meetings or submitting representations, these increasingly referred to elements of the neighbourhood development plan regarding character and sustainability in particular. And then I commented that we've been working on various actions which is going to take into its committed work streams. Now,
So could they have a copy of,
they can have a copy of that.
and then they can pick things out as the risk, can't they?
They can do, they probably say they're not interested in those because they're not planning issues. But what then, I then, in the meantime, the lady from Neighbour Development Plan meeting, or planning team, oh, she's been promoted, sorry, just said that the authority monitoring report is based on quantitative rather than qualitative information. So we might not be able to use the information in the report which you provide. However, it would be helpful to understand how the Parish Council Planning Committee are using the Neighbourhood Development Plan in reviewing planning applications. Are the policies specifically referred to in Parish Council responses? In the Parish Council's view, how many policies are supporting applications, how many applications are contrary to policy, and which policies are being used the most? And then she also says, my colleague is looking to see if there are any planning appeals in the area for the monitoring period. If there are, the appeal will be reviewed to understand how the policies in the Neighbourhood Development Plan influence the outcome. So, I mean, the reality is we don't have a table that says, right, did it apply to that policy, this policy, that policy? Because in the end, they're the planners and they're using it as I see it, there's a national planning policy, and then there's the Kirklees planning policy, and then there's, local plan, and then there's neighbourhood plan. But I would say we are seeing increasing reference to it in submissions.
We are, yes we are. I mean, it would be a huge piece of work, wouldn't it, to go back
I don't see why
suggesting
it's-
that we need,
And we are
we should
commonly
do that.
referring to it,
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
climate.
Yeah, particularly. I think the sustainability one is one of the things I'm hoping.
But going forward, you just need to know where, because, yeah, Neighbour Development Plan was referenced a few times in the discussions earlier this evening.
Yeah.
Maybe we just need to tick a box saying that's been referenced on that particular application.
Yeah.
And then you're monitoring how it's influencing your
You mean
decision
keep a tally as we go,
Yeah,
as we,
as
yes.
you go on. I'm not suggesting go back through what has been done. Yeah.
In reality,
It sounds to me that's what they're asking for. Are we using that as a tool to influence
But the funny
our
thing is,
decisions?
I think it's a bit odd because they're the ones who actually have to use it.
Yeah.
We just get, I mean, in the end, when we spoke to the planners, what they want from us really is the local information.
Mm.
You know, whether we object or support is, we're not actually a statutory consultee anyway, so it's not, in some respects, it's not material in terms of their decision, but it's useful for them to understand the local
Yeah.
context. So, to my mind, it's more, when they write their reports, they always now refer to the neighbourhood development
Yes,
plan.
yes.
So they would have that information rather than us, but.
It has been, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's up to them to monitor it really.
it'd be nice to see, and I don't know how you do it, but it'd be nice to see more evidence that developers are using it,
Yeah.
which we don't tend to see, do we?
Well, I suppose you see it in the submissions,
Yeah.
don't you? That's the thing.
Just-
Not routinely, I don't
Just-
think, does it?
Yeah.
I think we'll start seeing it more when the applications get refused for not sticking up for it.
Yeah.
But like at the moment, like a lot of people are just putting their plans in and not by luck, but they just kind of generally are passing our requirements, because a lot of them do. It's only the odd kind of big development or certain ones where they don't kind of fit what we're asking for it, don't they?
They do, I mean, when they have to do an assessment, a statement, then they do refer to it quite often, don't they? But I mean, a lot of the planning applications seem to be pretty substandard, having looked at the requirements that a lot of things are not in that should be in.
I thought we were going to talk about it later, but when you look at the SPDs that are out there, there's an awful lot
There's
that
an awful
they should
lot
do
there
and
that-
doesn't happen. And I guess, the NDP is almost falling into that category.
Just to move on, so Rachel, do you think we don't need to, do we need to do
Well-
anything else in relation to this
Well, my sentence
request?
is we just need to send back a sentence that says, I mean, particularly because they're asking for January to March.
Yeah, well, it was hardly,
Sentence
yeah.
March. That we just send back a statement sort of along the lines of what I put out before, that's just, we've noticed an increasing awareness of it and reference to it. I mean, I suppose my sense is that the main thing we refer to that it seems to be missing is the sustainability one. when we've asked repeatedly for why isn't there mention of sustainability statement, that's what we've requested.
Kirklees already have that, one of their SPDs. All planning applications should have that, all. Very rarely seen it.
Given the draft quantitative, in the end, we're going to go back and say, well, we don't have.
We don't have any quantitative for this time, but it's, I suppose, maybe perhaps looking forward, as you suggested, you know, that we should start noting when it's cited, or when we cite it, or when it's cited in an application. I mean, it seems like quite a lot of work, that, doesn't it, on top of just looking at the plans.
I think I might push back and say in your officer reports, you, from what we see, because we get the officer reports, don't we, when we've particularly
Yes, we
have
do.
difference of opinion, and so you always refer to the relevant policies, so we think you're probably better placed to monitor the application of those policies in practice than we are.
We mentioned digital and not today, didn't we? That was one way they haven't done a lot of things which we set out in the plan.
Yeah,
So that's
community consultation.
that is one where it ticks a box, doesn't it? I think that's probably the only one I can think of from today.
But yeah, they do mention data.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, they don't do everything though, do they? They might mention the odd.
They do mention it somewhere in the writing, I can't remember where.
I mean, it's
Okay.
different.
But they don't take any notice.
It's
The fact that they mention it doesn't mean they can't apply it.
Far from it.
It's quite baggy in a way, the neighbourhood development plan, isn't it? I mean, it's not like in like material planning consideration. I mean, you can interpret it. There's lots of room for interpretation because of the nature of the documents. Right. Okay. So we'll move on. So we're happy to go with the way that Rachel suggested that we respond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then a piece in title.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you okay to draft that, or do you? Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, so I need to go in just.
Do you know the
December.
I don't know the deadline, that's Jen's territory.
We got the HD one today.
Well, to
so
be honest,
it's-
if it went out in January.
That would be alright, wouldn't it? Okay, so and I'll make those changes that Rachel suggested, or if then you've got to just let me have them, and then the document will go to the full council meeting on the 12th.
Actually, yeah, I was just thinking, if it's going to full council on the 12th, then wouldn't it be best to have what we're going to say publicly
Yeah.
approved by full council?
Yes, it would.
And then it
It
can go
may-
out,
because
I think that would be
yeah.
better.
Yeah.
So if I draft something and share it with you,
Okay.
is that all right?
Yeah, thanks. Okay, traffic calming, right, so Andy's our expert on this. And has been to a meeting, a Teams
I've been to a
meeting,
meeting.
a Teams meeting with
Does that make you an
Kirklees. Yes. Okay, so you said in an email to me that you thought that we might perhaps want to reconsider the way we're doing things, so.
I mean, I can just briefly go through that meeting and what was said and what it was around, if that's helpful. Yes, it was a Teams meeting, and Teams is Microsoft Office, and Microsoft and Macs don't go together very well, so I could see people, they couldn't see me, so it wasn't very Anyway, the review was with Hugh Williams, who is employed by Sistra, who are consultants who did this review. So it wasn't Kirklees that did it, it was Phil Waddington, Mark Scarr from Kirklees, and Councillor Mather said a bit at the end. They were looking at collision data and the surveyed roads and signs across the whole of Kirklees. And the conclusions were, broadly, speed limits broadly appropriate. Collision data shows speed isn't a contributory factor. See where this is going, can't you?
Oh dear.
There are missing and damaged signs that need replacing, but not a great number of them. And they identified 38 what we call school streets, which I think they wanted to put a focus on. So the next steps were, well, firstly funding. They don't get any funding until 2023-24, so there's nothing much can happen immediately anyway. And the next thing they're going to do is undertake a study around schools and possibly introduce 20 mile an hour limits around schools. going to review the existing 20 mile an hour limits and zones. You know, are they working okay, or do they need additional measures? There aren't that many of them, are there? On the, that affect us.
Magdale and North Holland.
Yeah, that's it.
So do they have data on the number of collisions since they became 20 miles an hour as opposed to when they were 30 miles an hour?
I don't think so, no, and they didn't.
Is that
change
useful?
if they had. And they're going to review and replace all missing and damaged signs. One of the questions was, will there be a review of the 20 mile an hour policy? You remember the policy
Yeah.
which goes back to 2013? Now, I think Liz was suggesting that this was going to be part of it. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case. All they're saying is that they will do it within the 4 years of this budget that they get in 2023-24. So it's not imminent by any means. Someone asked when do we actually get to see the actual report, because we just got a few slides that showed an overview, and they said before Christmas. Now I think that will go to the ward councillors, not necessarily to the parish. Some observations. The focus was very much on reduction of accidents, which is fair enough. And they're supporting this Vision Zero plan, which is zero accidents and deaths from collisions. But what they're not doing is giving any consideration to other factors. So the things like noise, air pollution, effect on other road users, the sort of things that we were trying to push them along. There is more support for 20 mile an hour zones and limits, and I think we've talked about the difference there, haven't we, before? And I think probably we've reached that conclusion anyway, that zones are more effective. Councillor Donald Firth was there, and he was actually very supportive of 20 mile an hour zones. So there's one ally.
Is our MP as well? So I think that's leaflet.
Yes, it wasn't. I don't know if you were specifically 20 mile an hour zones, was it?
Weighing speed limits,
Mm.
cutting speeds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Generally, Councillor Mather just sort of finished things off, saying that Sister had provided us a baseline. She was reassured that only 4 locations require speed limits changing across the whole of Kirklees. She was saying consistency is important across Kirklees. They're going to concentrate on school streets. There's only £600,000 in the budget. And road safety is the focus.
Are they still focused on the 38 schools? Because didn't Liz say something about, but we want to do all of them?
I think they're going to expand that. The sister identified 38, but I think correctly they're saying they'll take it further.
Yeah, to more schools, like more school.
I mean, in reality, they won't manage to achieve all of them, so it makes sense to prioritise, but just wonder what they're saying.
So,
So I don't know where that leaves us with the sort of thing that we were doing. It's almost a separate initiative, isn't it? This is very much accident focus,
Yeah.
which is good positive stuff. I mean, that's what we want to see. But there's a bigger picture, I think, isn't there? I guess one of the questions, and I think Tom asked it before, didn't he? You know, we could probably fund some of these if we wish, which I believe is what Meltham did.
Was that the sorry?
20 mile an hour limits in specific areas.
Oh yeah.
So if we felt strongly enough about an area,
We could push it in.
we could fund it through the parish. Quite what the mechanism is and the cost, I have no idea.
We were given some scary costs before, weren't we?
It might be interesting to see how Meltham did it.
I don't think that 20 mile an hour through Maltham was done by the town council
as well, isn't it?
I think
Was it?
it was Liz who said that they funded it, or perhaps part funded it, I don't know.
Probably worth asking
I
those.
can ask, I can ask, I was
Well, we
emailing
could
me
find
today
out.
about stuff, so.
That
I mean,
would be
personally,
expensive, because they'd have like takeovers and
Yeah, I
things.
don't think
I would have thought that was a one
to
that
take their
Home Valley North, yeah,
Yeah.
initiative.
Personally, I don't feel like sort of backing off what we were trying to do. Like, it's a bit depressing when you look at what's going on and the lack of funding. But
Yeah, I mean, we put a bit of effort into what we've done into this document, haven't we? And again, that's been circulated to all councillors, and there's been no one. They did previously. A couple of people came back with ideas. So I just, I just think we're kind of flogging a dead horse here. But I'm just wondering if this document is in the state to send to Liz Twitch at this point. I don't mean to drop. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like but it's kind of like I'm joining up thinking with Kirk Lees if we're going to get anything done with
Yeah.
this, and it seems like they're on a different wavelength to what we're thinking. So either we need to kind of try and adapt to what their way of thinking, or we have to kind of do it a different way. Like I'd be interested to know like what it's the collision data that they have, which causes them to change limits in the areas. And I know that a few years ago when I was planning the speed awareness course, that they said that speed cameras were only put up on roads where someone's been a casualty, someone's died on the roads, and that's why speed cameras are put up. So that's driven by some kind of data like that. So how many collisions do you need to have something like this? Like it actually got me thinking that you mentioned that, because I remember a few months ago I was driving somewhere and on a night, and I saw there had been an accident at the top of Springwood Road by the school where they put all the speed bumps in there now. So that's just got me thinking, so if there's an accident like that there, a junction like that, does that mean that something's going to happen then? Or do you need to have 3 or 4 accidents for it to happen? Or that also made me think as well when you mentioned that about the speed bumps that they're putting down there. Because there's about 6 or 7 speed bumps on that road now which goes around. And that made me think as well, if they've got a budget of £600,000, how much do those speed bumps cost that they're putting there? I'd be interested to know how much the speed bump costs, or a few of them cost, because if it's £600,000, and I don't think it goes very far, but it depends how you try and implement it, right? If you want to put a few signs up, let's say 20 on them, and they're around different areas, that doesn't cost very much. So there's ways you can go about doing this, which could probably be cheaper and get more done. But it depends on their own strategy and how they want to do it.
if we focus on
Sorry,
the areas,
sorry,
sorry, I
Chris
think
was
that.
Yeah, I was just going to say what I know from being a copper for 30 years. So the only accidents where, from the police, you would get the causation factors data on are injury accidents. So if it's a non-injury accident, police turn up and just tell you to exchange details. Yeah. If there's an injury, then officer fills in a booklet with causation factors. And I always used to put speed as one of the causation factors, because if you're driving less slow, there's less damage. But anyway, so, but I don't know if council could get data from the insurance companies, because they'll have a far bigger database potentially of accident locations.
I think I don't feel we should be going on parallel tracks with the police councillors. Because I mean roads is their responsibility. I feel maybe what just suggesting the way I'd perhaps is for us to meet with the 3 Kirklees councillors for the ward and see how we can work together.
But these 20 mile an hour came to mind when we were talking about the Hinchcliffe Mill redevelopment. You were talking about that bit of road where kids go to and from school. And if 20 mile an hour could be put in place, and in the same way that, I don't know if it can be done, developers put in new roundabouts when we're building a big development, can they also pay for the 20 mile an hour restriction being put in?
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it's an obvious place with school, new development,
Yeah,
there's potential opportunity for it.
I have a fundamental problem with accident statistics anyway, because this is all historical. By the time somebody's had an accident and killed, it's all been done, isn't it? What we should be focusing on is prevention. not waiting until somebody's had an accident and then saying, ooh, what we're going to do about it.
I think it would be useful. I think having a meeting with Kirklees all councils would be really helpful, because I also think that we should push them to say why is it that Kirklees is reluctant to consider taking an approach that says residential ownership of 20 miles an hour.
Yeah,
I was in the
yes.
Midlands today and drove through Rugby, everywhere residential 20 mile an hour zone.
Sheffield's the same.
It's, it feels as if we should at least push them to say why isn't Kirklees actively politically taking that stance?
I feel that we put some effort into doing this document. I'm not sure it's going anywhere really, and I just feel we need perhaps a different track, and perhaps if you get
I think the council's a good idea.
The one area in this disagreement on is the schools approach.
yeah.
So we might see over a lot about 20 mile an hour ones around a lot of schools. And one of the things about the local area is there is quite a lot of schools. So how big is the zone do you do around the school? Do you do within an hour, a mile radius of it? You do a mile radius of it, like Keppel School. That's quite a big area around it. Or do you just do just the end of the road near it? Or what do you do? Like by the high school, you could probably do like all the way down to part of the way down to New Mill, part of the way down the other side of the walk towards 7th. You do all the area around the high school, Wardhill, and then you've got all the Wardhill schools around it. You could actually just make a lot of 20 mile an hour depending on how they choose to, depending on what their scope is for it, I suppose.
Is there an opportunity there to pick up on the whole 20 mile an hour around Hinchliffe Mill? Can we weave that into our final response on that particular thing? And say, given the concerns about highways, we want to encourage Kirklees to explore with the developer the opportunity of making this the ground 20 mile an hour.
In the question, I don't know the answer to what the implications in terms of fuel use and environmental impacts of going at 20 mile an hour rather than 30 mile an hour. Is it part of your climate awareness actions?
Yeah.
Reducing. I don't know if it is or if it isn't.
I think that would
Might not be a good
Yeah,
street
yeah,
for
yeah.
I mentioned that you mentioned that not bothered about the sound or about the fumes, but you quite often if you go on the motorway down past Sheffield now, there's 60 mile an hour in there, and the signs up saying it's for air quality reasons. So it's definitely a good reason for it. But I think that
See, I have an electric car and I think I should be able to go at 70 down the outside way. Down that bit.
It's still got tyre wear.
Yeah.
I think
But that's specifically an air quality zone. So
I think we need perhaps to
it's
move
all about
on.
electric cars.
exactly that's
So I think we've decided that we'll seek a meeting with the 3 Kirklees councillors and kind of widen the issue around the general 20
We
miles
also
per hour.
sorry, just to add one final thing, because the new Home First scheme, that is creating a very small 20 mile an hour zone, which I personally think should be extended. But I think the fact that that's happening is also a hook to say, well, actually, you are putting something in the middle of Home First, so surely that means it is important. So
And perhaps as we see developers come along, we could emphasise it in our planning conference.
Are you wanting to meet with the North councils as well?
Oh
So
gosh,
we just
of course,
talking about
yes,
South
yes,
Council.
we are, aren't we? Yes.
I think for as well, like we Kirklees have the 106 agreements that they do, where they get the money from the developers for certain things. The focus tends to focus more on junctions and other things rather than putting limits in there. But I think this could be something that definitely Kirklees should think about, because you see them all years old. It could be.
I think it would be good to meet with the council. Perhaps we could try and meet with them all. We'll never get everyone. Well, but I think we ought to certainly include them all in our
Yes,
house
we do.
as well.
Two,
Unless we do 2 sets of meetings.
bit unmanageable, but 6.
I mean, most of the councillors that were on that meeting, Teams meeting, were very supportive of 20 mile an hour.
Unless we might all know if they've got
Well, I
comments.
think we just, shall we try and sort out one meeting and see as many as can come? I do think we need to be working together, and the thing about mission creep, it's not our, in a sense, we have no responsibility for roads, so we need to be working through Kirklees councils. Is that okay? And then perhaps to just pick up one other thing, which is that Rachel had mentioned earlier about the MP. I think it might be worth writing, as you suggest, writing to him and asking him what what he's hoping to achieve.
Survival.
Survival. Right. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Number 92. Peak District National Park Authority. Can we note list?
Yeah.
Can we note the list, please? Notice. Thank you. And the list of decision notices. Can we note that? Right. Okay. Right. Planning policy. Right. Oh gosh. Yes. Well, we like to respond when we're asked to comment. I know both Andy and I had a bit of a look, had a bit of a look at this. It was a difficult document to try and get your way through. I tend to sleep. I just think if we can just identify a few bullet points at this point and put them in an email, I think that would be enough. So I would suggest that we welcome, we welcome the principle of the identification of affordable housing and housing mix, which is equally important. Maybe I'll go through and then you can add.
It's got to be in by tomorrow.
I know it's got to be in by tomorrow. I won't get much. Right. The other things to welcome is about the same high quality of design for affordable housing, and also the integration of affordable. Do you want me to send you these? Integration of affordable housing within the housing. I think yes, okay, can do that.
I've got a video.
Yeah.
I'm a bit sad, I must be, but I actually had a look to see what they were working to now, and there's already I don't know what they call it, a temporary SPD.
Yeah.
I couldn't really spot the difference.
Right.
So, in theory, they're already doing all this.
Yeah, and we also, I think, welcome the 20% of total units in developments over 10 dwellings, which is as it is now. Yeah, but then there's always a caveat that subjects the viability of the scheme. So the whole thing is shot through with should. Developers should do this, not must. Yeah.
So that's a point worth making.
I think that's probably worth making. Yeah. And so most of it is mainly guidance, isn't it? And actually, I think it was one of your points that even if the 20% was enforced, it wouldn't do much to address the particular problems in the Home Valley and the need for affordable housing. Even if it was 20% of all developments above 10, which is what it should be, it's not going to do much to address the issues.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, you make a point in this and probably it's not the right place, but when you look at the applications we get, most of them are for enlarging houses.
Yeah.
So we're losing the battle, or we're losing the battle in this area. We're not building anything like as many affordable homes as we're losing.
Yeah.
And really, unless you stop that, it almost seems a lost cause.
And you made the point, which was about the week on climate emergency. Yeah. Okay. Is that all right, Rich?
Yeah,
Have you got them all?
I've got a video.
Yeah, you've got. I'm really sorry. It has to be in by tomorrow. So. I don't think we'll mind if it's a day late. Are we happy with those? Yeah, it would. So we made an effort. Let's move on to our ongoing highways campaigns. Noise and speeding and noise pollution on Woodhead Road. Right. Deputy Clerk has had no reply from his twitchers. Yeah, you sent us some interesting freedom of information some time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I did wonder whether it, because Andy had some success with escalating his complaints to further up the chain, didn't you? So I did wonder, because Liz Twitchett has ignored several emails from me now, probably maybe 3, where I've asked her a variety of different things, and she just ignores it, and she just ignores all of them. Whereas, you know, like Will Akerley had ignored you, but obviously his bosses, who you went to his bosses, didn't you? Well, his bosses' bosses, and so you got a reply. You got a reply, not from them, but from him. So.
If I could just mention, that's something that, going back to the 20 mile an hour thing, one of the councillors said to Councillor Mather, I can never get a reply out of anybody at Kirklees.
Yeah.
Then she said, CC me on anything like that, I will make sure you get a reply. And Mark Scarr said exactly the same thing. That's not the sort of thing we want to see. CC me on it, you will get a reply.
I do CC him though. Often,
Yeah.
you know.
But that's what they've said, isn't it?
Okay.
I think prodding the councillors might get her.
Mm.
You know, that's maybe the way to.
Okay.
To get a response. Okay. Anything else to say on?
Well, I didn't know whether you wanted to consider the freedom of information thing. I don't know whether you saw that, but you know, it is a formal approach to when they are being so intransigent that you're getting nowhere. That they have to deal with that legally.
Should we try copying in the councillor?
Yeah, I wasn't saying anything like that now. I wasn't saying
Sometimes
it now.
sometimes interpreters are hostile.
Yeah.
So,
But the fact is, they are not replying to emails. They are being hostile.
yeah, absolutely. So I think we need to roll this into the meeting with councillors, don't we think?
Yeah.
Campaign,
Fair point.
campaign for a safer Medvale. Any contributions?
I think we need to know that for now, can't they? It seems like they're ongoing with their information collection.
Hay Road intersection, I have nothing more to report. I think we're still developing the scheme. That improved junction. Burnley Road closure.
We're getting to its second birthday soon now.
Yes. Yeah.
Unofficially and through the grapevine and all that side, I've heard that the insurers are going to take legal action against Kirklees. That might not be true, it's just rumours, but
Right, okay, no further action. Ramsden Road.
got a reply. Not exactly too useful, but I think the most encouraging thing is we've got to use the money before it runs out in March. And we've identified some cheaper gates, £44,000 instead of £100,000.
£44,000.
Is that for 3 gates?
I
Just
don't want to be too negative about it, but I just wonder whether it's kicking the can down the road until March, you know. There's some dogs eat my own work again sort of thing.
£44,000.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll
that's
see,
very much
we'll
really.
see. Okay.
Some
So-
gates.
So there is slight progress. Is there?
Yes,
Yeah,
there is.
there is slight progress. Okay, so no further action at this point.
What concerns me about stuff like that is these 4x4 drivers, they tend to find a way. Like the ones near my mum and dad left the Cheesegate now, up there, they put some big blocks across the road. They moved them. The farmer went. This was a few weeks ago. I did reports to the council. The ones at the bottom of the now. The farmer went to approach them and was basically threatened by them. Did that, and also someone's one of the drivers went round and crashing, like causing damage to the neighbouring property at the farm at the bottom of Cheesegate now. So like I'm fairly regular. Well, I made an email from a constituent that made me aware of that one. And then I emailed the person who works at the farm because they've been in contact with me before about a couple of things. And Councillor Davis has been quite good with it all as well, actually. We've been going through him, and he's helped her out quite a lot, and she was quite good about it. But then this has happened recently, so we put gates in. They'll attach them to the vehicles, try and grab them off. They'll still try and find a way to get around it. They're very persistent.
Yeah,
And-
we should still keep trying.
Yeah, we should still keep trying,
Make it
but
awkward
Yeah.
for them.
yeah.
And then they'll be done for criminal damage.
The most positive thing at the moment on Ramsden Road is that Yorkshire Wash are pretty close. Because
Yeah.
the reservoirs
Yeah.
to the collapse, yes. You're down the street, you know.
Oh, God.
We're all down the street. No,
Okay, let's move on from Ramsden Road to the Hopfirth Town Centre Master Plan. So, yeah, I think this is a bit of cheerful stuff that we managed to get a meeting arranged for 9th of November. Chris, are you interested in joining that?
Yeah, I think I said I was.
That's good.
He's on the list.
Yeah, just so, yeah. Was that 9th of November?
Yes. Okay, good. So move on. Right, I'm going to vacate the chair to deal with item 96. Tom's going to take. I don't know how literally vacate the chair, but
Okay,
you
sure,
can do it
sorry.
from there if you
I
like.
can chair from here. So, yeah, so 22-23-96, consideration of a recommendation from the Finance and Management Standing Committee. So, the Finance and Management Standing Committee has suggested that the Planning Committee uses the budget area for the Humboldt Neighbourhood Development Plan to provide some funding towards the market in the new outdoor market in Hempford. So I'll kick this one off. I saw this and I thought, well, planning's putting some money towards a market. That's a bit strange for someone from the planning committee to do. But then when I thought about it, you think, well, the neighbourhood plan actions. This is something that is in the neighbourhood plan. The neighbourhood plan, I'll quote from it. It says, support placemaking initiatives seeking to build both community and economic value from our unique heritage and environment. So this is supposed to will build community and economic value, and the markets are part of our heritage. I don't know how it affects the environment, but I think it would fit under our remit from that budget heading. So, does anyone else any thoughts on this?
Well, I'm the one who suggested this was an imaginative way of supporting the principle of having a market in Hempford. It's deliberately not money that's identified to go towards a specific licensee of the market. Obviously, we know that the awarded licensee is Hempford Forward because they approached finance and management to explain that they were the licensee. But the money isn't just, it's not proposing to spend it, it's supposing to set it aside on the basis that, personally, I think having a market provision is something we have championed for many years, and we were always given the assurance by Kurt Lees that whilst they were going to demolish the market building itself, they were going to support the ongoing provision of the service. But it was brought to our attention through Hempford Forward coming to finance and management that Kurt Lees do not seem to be offering much support to the licensee that they've appointed to allow them to actually get off the blocks and set up a market. So as a consequence, a letter was written by, that came from finance and management, didn't it? To Kurt Lees, to which I assume we've had no response yet.
We had a nice holding response, but
Yeah.
no final response.
Basically saying that we're a bit concerned that you've appointed a licensee to deliver a market and yet you're going to demolish the market next year, but you're not doing, apparently you don't seem to be doing anything constructive to work with this licensee to support them to actually get off the ground. So effectively, we're going to lose a market by virtue of you appointing a licensee who doesn't seem able to start, which just seems inadequate to me. So, which is why I felt that actually to potentially help this situation and avoid us just accidentally losing a market provision, we should write to get these, which we did, to say, look, if you appoint a licensee and can't deliver it, then look again, folks. But if it needed some money to support the setting up of the market, irrespective of who the licensee is, then potentially we as a parish council should at least think about doing that.
So in a way, we could be sponsoring the market. That's one way to look at it, I suppose. This is just ring fencing it at the moment.
Yeah, it's not.
So for myself, I'd like to see a few conditions met before we decide to partner with our funds.
Yeah,
So we have to be quite careful about how we go about doing it, I suppose. But and I hope that Kirklees will stick up with their side of the bargain as well, and help the people more. I think maybe when the licence, they didn't appreciate how much effort and help and support that they would need to give to the licensee, but it still seems to be quite a bit away from happening, but hopefully something will happen soon. When's the market hall going to be demolished? Is there any idea about that? I suppose you might know more in a week or so when you're on the third meeting, but...
So,
Can I share we've had a couple of comments by email about this agenda item, which I said I would share with you. So the first one is a local resident. He says, I've just read the agenda for planning for Monday in relation to the parish council paying towards the proposed open market. Currently Kirklees pays for the market, so they should continue to do so or utilise the income from the car parking charges of the car park where that market hall is currently instead. The parish council should not fund it via precept, even if the Home Valley Parish Council Neighbourhood Plan suggests this. Conclusion, car parking fees should fund the open market in return for knocking down our market hall. And then a councillor said, I would like to make a comment on the last item on the agenda about the market which is being taken on by Home First Forward. I am presuming without funds or insufficient funds, and whilst we seek approval for EMR of 3,000, and that the neighbourhood plan has been twiddled to accommodate this venture. Firstly, if funding is required, then it would be better if applied through the grant scheme. However, I cannot understand any group taking on such a large venture without funds, and no doubt will require continued funding. Where is this market to go? When will it happen? Does it need planning permission? Have the group acquired some land, and where is it? So this councillor is against, would have been against the motion, basically.
Thanks. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, there are a couple of points here. I mean, if you look at what's happening in Huddersfield with the Queensgate, Kirklees have said they will fully support displaced markets from that area. Why on earth aren't they doing the same in North Earth?
Yeah.
Okay, just giving a licence out, but they don't seem to take any care in making sure that that licensee is actually capable of running a market. So very disappointing, I think, from that point of view. We did talk about this at full council, didn't we? A couple of meetings ago. It came up.
we did briefly, yeah, not in relation to Home Forward.
And it was said then, the words were, it was possible that any grant requests in respect of establishing an outdoor market would fall outside of the scope of Home Valley Parish Council. So that's what was said at full council. A few other points as well, perhaps not quite so pertinent, but you know, we've got a group here who are, I've no doubt, very enthusiastic, and you know, you welcome that, but they don't seem to have, from what I've seen, any real business plan about how this is going to work. So where would this £3,000 go? Would it be a drop in the ocean? Does that get them up and running?
I think, yeah, I definitely need more detail, but I wouldn't be adverse to putting it, ring-fencing it, for maybe suspending it. It doesn't mean we are going to spend it. I personally would like to see Kirklees provide a service that they're doing the other neighbouring towns and areas of the area. So we've got Huddersfield, we've got outdoor market there, we've got the Dewsbury market. I don't know about other areas, I'm trying to think of other markets.
You know, there is a parallel with Queensgate, isn't there?
That's coming to an end, don't it, Queensgate?
Yeah, it's been closed.
all the businesses that did it still exist in there have been found alternative premises within the town centre.
But
And that's not the same as having a market anymore, is it?
But are they paying for them themselves, or are Kirklees paying part of it? We don't really know.
I don't know the detail of that.
I think finance and management have suggested that we do that we ring fence 3,000. It's a bit well, it's
Could we not do this next year?
well.
Well, we could. I think that the issue is that we've, well, there's two issues really. There's the principle of setting aside some money to support the market, whoever it's operated by. And my view is that the market is a key part of our local town. And yes, ideally, Kirklees would provide that funding, and we're probably going to try and say, look, what are you doing to support it? But should there be a shortfall, or Kirklees cannot, to my mind, us having set aside some money allows at least that conversation to continue around, well, a market could happen regardless of who the licensee is. If it's money to get off the blocks that's the problem, not as us taking on long-term ownership of the market, because I don't think there's ever been any desire by the council to do that. Albeit, I think there are other parish councils that do run markets.
Yeah.
So I think it is, it is a possibility. I'm not, but not one I'm advocating. But I think this is just setting aside the money. So it's not giving a grant to any organisation. It's just saying that the Holmfirth market merits setting aside some money in case it's required in order to conserve the principle of the market. So we would never be in a position, to my mind, we would never be in a position of saying to, if it is Holmfirth Forward or whatever organisation it would be, say to licensee, right, you have £3,000, off you go. It would be just in principle, we'd have set aside some money because it fits with the principles that were picked up in the development plan. Actually, that we have some money that we could support it with. So it's a bit different to
It's better for
grant.
it's better for the money to be kind of be there if they come forward with a business plan for us next year, which is good, fits our requirements, the fully constituted group, and
I'll put in next year's budget.
but like I think well it depends when the market all's coming down, doesn't it? Like quite often you see these things close and they don't come back, or people the customers find it hard to go somewhere else or they don't go back to them. So I would quite the kind of thing I like to see is like the market closes, the market all closes, and then the next week a market opens somewhere else. That's the perfect solution, isn't it? So if it's going to happen before then, which I don't think it is going to happen like that. And I think it might be another year before the market all closes. We don't know. I think we'll know more when we have the town centre plan meeting next week. And that's something that we might want to get out about, like potential workings with the market group in that. And then people to work with the market group, the people involved with the town centre plan. I think that's something we should kind of do. And I don't want us to spend £3,000 on this. I want Kirklees to provide us with a service or something that money to come out of that project, personally. But
I'd like to see a business plan that says this is how we're going to run it, this is the sort of funding we need. How much of Kirklees can help with that, and really this should do it all. And if there's a shortfall, then we can then consider, do we actually want to expose ourselves to that shortfall?
could always be something
At the
like
moment, we're just in the dark, we don't,
Well, we are,
we've
but
no
then,
idea what's
but if we
planned.
don't earmark anything, then we could be in a position where they come to us with a business plan in, I don't know, late February, and then we go, oh, we haven't got any money, sorry, we missed it.
we can't do it for another 6 weeks until full council, so we either do it now and then kind of prepare ourselves for something we might have to spend on, or we think, oh no, we don't have that, and then we're left scratching around for a few weeks. Is it better to have it in place beforehand if we do need it? I don't know, I always think it's better to plan and prepare, I suppose, so.
I think if we're agreeing the principle of it in place, I agree with that. And that doesn't negate the fact that you're going to want a full business plan before we actually sign the cheque and hand the money.
I think we all.
I think the two things, I think you can have both things at the same time. Just by agreeing in principle that it's something that we might be able to fund, and that's the amount I want to put towards.
Because we're not setting it aside for Holmfirth Forward, we're setting it aside for market support of the market.
I think we are on a similar wavelength. It's just that I'm just thinking about it beyond the budget for next year. and some of us are thinking about earmarking it now, or moving the funds, reprinting it now for the now really. So, do we have a proposer?
I mean, obviously, sorry, Tom,
Sorry, yeah.
you've got £10,000 in that pot.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that £10,000? What's it for?
Give it back.
It's in the budget.
Yeah. Well, was there anything in there to speak on it? In Naval Plan we can use to speak on. Well, there's other things in Naval Plan we can think about for this, but yeah, this is one area where
We
it's
don't have to spend everything.
You don't have to spend it.
No, we don't, but we
No.
shouldn't raise the money locally to then not spend it. We should
We
set
should
budgets.
Taxpayers are giving money to the council,
Yeah.
they're giving it to the council to spend for their benefit.
On specific things.
No, not so.
And now we're moving it around. Well, we haven't spent it there, so we'll spend it.
Well,
somewhere
that's the
Well,
principal
that's the
argument, isn't it? Either in principle, it's all right to spend this money on the market because it falls under the remit of it supporting a neighbourhood development plan. You either, that's the question, isn't it? Does it?
Yeah.
To me, if we're saying it does, which it sounds like, to me like it does, then I would be in favour of it.
It does, but it's kind of like, it's requesting part of the budget, because it does fit it, but we're just saying that £3,000 of this will be used on that, and the 7,000 is available, which we might not spend. We might not even spend this 3,000, I hope we don't spend this 3,000 on the market, I hope there's another solution that comes up. But I would be, well, I'm going to say that I would propose that we do green fence 3,000, I think it's there just in case, but, and then we see what passes in the coming months. Before we decide to spend it, yeah.
Right, second one.
Should we vote on it then?
Yeah, I'm supporting
Yeah.
what you suggested.
And against? Yeah. And I understand why I'm doing.
Yeah.
And do we chase the business plan aspect of it? You know, is this another aspect of what we're doing?
I think we probably should do, actually.
I think we should, maybe should we identify some grants, should we say that? Because I know that previous correspondence has gone through finance and management rather than ourselves. But this is the first I've heard about the discussions with finance and management, so we can do with it some,
Okay.
well, an update on what's going on, what Kirklees are planning to do, and what the mission is from the group, what the mission is, the plan is, and it's all very vague at the moment. We don't have dates, we don't know what the plan is, we don't know what Kirklees are doing. It's still very embryonic, if you ask me.
Is it any of our business, or is it business between the licensee and Kirklees?
It is mostly. I think.
Kirklees should be asking them for the business plan before they even give them the license.
What's our holding line?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well,
It's our
ju-
business, is it?
Just
Could
that
you
she's
review your
waiting.
license?
The market's manager was on holiday for 2 weeks, and they were waiting for her to come back. But I think that was a couple of weeks ago, probably.
So I think we need to change.
So we'll
there's
chase
there's
that.
something, what we say about the fact that there's slightly sticking our nose in, because we don't need to stick our nose in that, but we do need to know that there is going to be I think our question is just, look, you promised us that the market would continue in some form. You're the licence holder. Give us some reassurance that actually when our market all disappears, there will be a market. And we just need the answer to that. And to be honest, we don't need to be cited on who the organisation is that runs it.
No.
But separately, if that organisation came to us and said, look, Kirklees has helped us in this way, but this is our business plan and we hope that the parish council can give us some money, then we would consider that, but we'd consider that in light of all the information they then give us.
For me, that kind of falls under the town centre plan for me with the market. It falls under that more so than not maybe finance and management really, unless I can understand why it might fit under that as well.
It's only because Home Fair Forward came with a rather sort of desperate plea for money, and we went back and went, well, no, we're not just going to give you money for that. Why don't let's push Kirklees and say what the issue is. But in the meantime, it makes sense to set aside money. Should we?
But taking your point further, surely they would come back and ask for a grant in that case.
Well, potentially.
Not us sort of saying, we'll put some money on one side in case somebody comes and asks us.
But there is no grant pot
there's no
forward,
grant
that's the whole
pot
point.
There will be next year.
Well, we'll see, yeah, we'll see.
Thank you very much, Tom. Let's move on to
Yeah.
it's,
It's an interesting one, thanks, Mary. What do you think about that anyway?
item.
Sorry, can I just, given this was just talking about the £10,000, we need to have on the next agenda, I know there's been some ideas about some
Yeah,
as
yeah,
to whether there are plans to
Yeah, I think
spend
that's
that money.
that was in my head.
Yeah.
Item 97, which is community budget, of which we
That's all.
£10,000, there's £10,000, which is still there. So we need to decide on the budget for next year. I suppose I feel, given that this committee has in a sense oversight of the implementation of the naval development plan, and as we've said before, it's a large and baggy beast really, and all sorts of things might bubble up that we feel are worth supporting within the plan. That I do think we need to have a budget line. As to how much it is, that's a different question. So, any contributions?
My sense is that probably unless we have a clear idea of what we think we would spend it on, because I know last year we did have a sense that there was that Create Streets initiative and community engagement process, which seems to have all sort of gone very quiet. Might have approached us asking for support in terms of more community engagement and responding to planning applications and stuff. I think unless we've got a sense of really some series of workshops or whatever, I wouldn't have thought we should have £10,000 set aside, because that's quite a lot to spend really. But my sense is we should probably have a couple of thousands, 4,000 or something. But actually, because I was thinking, even if we did like some workshops through community groups about conservation areas, for example, really we'd push them to go and apply for a grant in order to do it, albeit we might then via our money to help boost the grant so that there was space to do it. But I don't think this, I'm conscious there's that whole working group looking at grants awarding, and I don't think the planning committee wants to end up being the committee that's awarding money.
I totally agree, it's a bit weird.
No.
So I wouldn't be averse to us not having any budget at all, but my only sense is that then we have no opportunity, say with the traffic things, to at least say we've got something to put towards it.
Have we any historical data that would help us? I mean, historically, have we spent money through planning?
Mostly on the production of the NDP.
But prior to that, then what's happening?
Yeah, that would be my question. What's the budget there for? It sounds like we've got a budget of 10,000 and we haven't spent any of it yet this year, and we're struggling to come up with ideas of what to spend it on. So,
Well, I think we
Is
said
that
that because
fair?
we thought,
yeah.
I think we thought there was something that was going to come, and then it wasn't.
So,
I can understand this
Yeah.
setting up the NDP, it's a big unknown, isn't it?
yeah.
But in the events, when needed, it's ever off,
No, not this one.
But going forward, surely that puts us back to where we've been historically. What have we done in the past? If we've never had a budget in the past and never needed one, then.
Yeah, but the past isn't necessarily a good
No.
indication of what we want to achieve as council.
But I'm really more
Yeah.
towards your sort of
Yeah.
the nominal couple of thousand in case something crops up,
Yeah.
rather than a big chunk that we've no idea what we want it for.
Yeah, I mean, I think 10,000 is far too much, really. But I think there are gaps, where we've been looking at the different tasks in the NDP, and maybe possibly there's some areas where we want to encourage, organise a meeting, encourage something to happen. I'm also conscious of the fact that it will be a new council, so I think just just having a nominal start. I think Rich suggested 4,000 dollars.
Yeah, I know, like in the past as well, we've had money in there for like room bookings as well. Like in case we've had to have any like a community meeting with a big contingency planning like application comes ahead. So I always like planning traditionally has always had quite a small budget because we don't really spend much, we just do little bits. We
Just sit and talk.
We're an old consulting body, aren't we? And we talk about things, but we don't spend money, do we? But so it's well, we did spend money when we did the neighbourhood plan before, I suppose. But now we don't really seem to have that. But it's always worth to have a bit of miscellaneous money on there for like room bookings, or if something occurs. So if someone decides they want to build a new supermarket in the middle of Brockholt or Homley or something like that, we might need to have a community meeting or something like that to talk about it. So stuff like that can happen. So it's worth having a little bit of money in there.
Okay, so we'd like to make a proposal, second again, 2,000. Anybody want to second that? Or an alternative proposal?
Did you say 4,000, Rachel?
4,000.
Maybe 3,000.
3,000.
Yeah,
Should we go? Yeah.
I'll second 3,000.
Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded 3,000. All those in favour? 3,000. 3,000 it is. Well done, everybody.
I think
Right.
it's for the new council, we don't leave them as a
Yeah, I just think that, yeah. Right. Final item, publicising work of Valley Parish Council. I think obviously with the ongoing stuff with the conservation areas, but also I think we've agreed that we'll make the NDP a little article for the next meeting. Thank you everybody, that's